What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Nintendo's 2025 for the Switch 2 starting to come into focus a bit more, with another title being dated and priced. And I have to say, some of this information, for me anyway, is kind of a relief, just trying to line up the rest of their releases, but we'll go over that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about Microsoft and what else, but more layoffs. This, though, kind of pointing towards their roadmap towards next generation for the Xbox. And Nvidia decided to surprise announce a new video card, one that's more budget-minded, but is it enough? All that and more. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button. Helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And of course, members for the channel do get Newswave early. If you would like to learn more about that, click the join button or the link in the description down below. And we're going to start today with Microsoft, Meta, and their Quest 3S Xbox edition, because it has been officially announced. And in fact, it's out now. This we can see it was posted up over on Xbox Wire. The Meta Quest 3S Xbox Edition bundle is $399.99. It's out now, and the bundle includes the custom Meta Quest 3S 128GB headset. It's that carbon black and velocity green combination. They have the Touch Plus controllers that match with that color scheme. The Meta Quest Elite strap, 3 months of Meta Horizon Plus, and 3 months of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. Indeed, if you add all of that up, it does come out to more than the $400 price they have marked here. So technically there, yes, it is a deal, and maybe you do like the color scheme here with that carbon black look with the green around it. I mean, in general, look, I will say the Meta Quest 3 and the 3S really are actually pretty good headsets for all-in-one devices, all right? Now, if you want to get more enthusiast with it, you want to get a nice PC and a more capable headset, and that ends up becoming much more expensive. This just being the idea of buy the headset, put it on, and that's it. You're going to go at of course, the mercy of the battery life that's then equipped with it. But it also supports Game Pass, as you see there. It comes with Ultimate, and you can, I guess, check it out at that point. Again, it's available now at $400. Also, we do have an update coming to Fast Racing Fusion, which is one that people have been waiting for and requesting for a bit, really, since it came out, which you can see this over on their official account. They say Fast Fusion Pure Update. That's coming out June 26th, tomorrow. It will be adding 3 new tracks, a new pure rendering mode, which was the big thing people were hoping to see. That's without any upscaling. So it's going to render at 1440p docked and 1080p handheld with a dynamic resolution. So the thing with Fast Racing Fusion is it technically renders at a very low resolution that use all kinds of tricks with DLSS to render and change things up and then move up to 4K. So I am interested to see how this not only looks, but also performs. They also mentioned a new GPU particle system for snow, 2 new jukebox entries, easier progression, so the pricing for the third cup, for example, is lower, and then some other fixes for stability and performance improvement. So the game itself, it's pretty awesome at its price point of $15, certainly harkening back to kind of the F-Zero stuff, but also what Shinnen's been doing pretty much at the launch of these Nintendo systems since the Wii. Provide a fast, high-octane racing experience, and now coming in with the pure mode at hopefully we'll see a solid performing 1440p. Oh, and another update that we have coming out tomorrow is for Dying Light. This we can see over on their website, where they say the Dying Light Retouched update is going to be completely free for all Dying Light owners on PC, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X and S. Now, they say the level of changes may vary by platform, and you might be wondering, okay, what exactly is going on here? This is, as they say, a retouched update. It's not a remaster. In fact, they make that very, very clear in this post. Instead, they're kind of just touching things up, and most of that seems to come down to some of the textures and details around the environment, so it just looks sharper on some of these newer systems that we have now. And I say newer because I mean, it's 10 years old now, the Dying Light. So it is hard to believe it's been 10 years, but yeah, so this, of course, leading into their game coming up, Dying Light the Beast. So this way you can kind of jump back into the origin story, if you will, and be able to play it at just a better looking game in general on, say, your PlayStation 5 or your Xbox Series. Again, free update though, it's out tomorrow. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Nintendo and a game that we've been wondering about when it was going to release, because it's there alongside of a bunch of other Nintendo games that still don't have release dates. Think of Metroid Prime 4 being a big one people are looking towards, but what about Drag X Drive? Yes, that's That's one that people have certainly been curious about. Well, now we have the pricing and the release date for it, which we can see this over on Nintendo's website. It's coming out August 14th. And I saw that, I said, oh, okay, all right, August 14th. Is that their big August game? Is that going to be their big retail-facing title that's going to work to push the Switch 2 forward during that time? Because in my mind, I was like, all right, are we crossing off August for, say, Metroid Prime 4 or Kirby Air Riders? I don't think so. And the reason for that is, well, they then announced that it's not going to be at retail. It's a digital-only title. And then we got the pricing, which at first GameStop had some page that people noticed, and it was $8 on there. I said, that seems a little too cheap, only because then it's cheaper than Welcome Tour, and well, it's at least not an instruction manual, okay? In this case, though, it is $19.99. It's set up currently for pre-order, but the reason I said, okay, a bit of a relief here, I don't think this is then going to be, say, a big August game for them. I mean, this is going to be coming out a month, almost exactly, after Donkey Kong Bonanza releases, and I do think there is a sense of keeping the momentum up for the Switch 2 going into the holiday season, and I just don't think Drag X Drive is that title. Not that it's not like, okay, so it's a very different, a very unique game, but it's not exactly a game that people are going crazy over and like, oh my gosh, I have to get this like now. And look, there's a few reasons why. You see the game and you feel like that could be a fun game to play for an hour or two. It's kind of that gimmick title where they're showing off the mouse functionality outside of just using a cursor currently on the main menu, say, of the Switch 2. No, this would be used exclusively for a game outright. It's the main control scheme. And it still is... It's still a situation of it's got to be almost perfect conditions for you to play it well. Remember in the treehouse, they couldn't showcase at the couch they were playing all the other games with a controller. They had to go off like set, go find a place with a massive table. Everyone sat down like they were at a computer desk, and then they were able to play it there with a huge mouse pad on that table. So you kind of realize that the perfect setting here isn't necessarily me sitting on the couch with the two Joy-Con sideways, say on your lap. Now, if you get serious with this, you're going to want to figure out a way to have a table in front of you, or at least a hard surface, so it doesn't really, to me, fall in line with the pick-up and play mentality that we have with many of these Nintendo games. And then on top of that, to be honest, the game itself doesn't look interesting from a character perspective. I mean, again, it's unique because you're rolling around in these wheelchairs, although apparently Nintendo employees called them vehicles, not wheelchairs. There's not a game like this, but also the characters, they all look very bland. It's almost all like one color. It's not the very colorful style of game or anything, which, who knows, maybe if they went that route, people would say it looks like some like hip Ubisoft title or something. So here it leans into the idea of being a tech demo, and when I see that it's digital only and it's $20, yeah, that sounds about right. Kind of that interesting, gimmicky tech demo style game here to show off the mouse functionality with those new Joy-Cons. So I still think there's a chance that, say, Metroid Prime 4 could fit in August, and it would be perfectly fine because Drag X Drive is not seen as maybe one of their big pillar titles to kick off the holiday season as they make a run towards the end of the year. But hey, let me know if you're picking up Drag X Drive at the $20 price point on August 14th. Next up, let's talk about Microsoft and what else but more layoffs. It feels like every month we hear about Microsoft laying people off in like the thousands of people. Restructuring happening constantly there. And now it does look like it's happening once again. This time, though, a bit more focus on Xbox. Now, there were two reports that were run. We'll start with the first one here. This is from Bloomberg and Jason Schreier that really kicked things off, where he says Microsoft will conduct another round of major layoffs in its Xbox division next week as part of a company-wide reorganization. Managers within Xbox are expecting substantial cuts across the entire group, according to people familiar with the plans who asked not to be identified discussing non-public information. The company declined to comment. Now, from there, we also had Tom Warren over on The Verge saying the upcoming cuts are also expected to hit Microsoft's sales organization just at the start of a new financial year. Microsoft is planning to restructure parts of its Xbox business as it looks ahead to its next generation of consoles. One source says Microsoft is restructuring Xbox distribution across Central Europe, resulting in some Xbox operations ceasing in some regions. And I will say, one, this is at the end of their fiscal year. Keep that in mind. July 1st starts their new year. So as we see with many large corporations, when they get to the end of their fiscal year or coming up on the end of it, they look around and reevaluate all the positions, for the most part, restructuring, cost saving. That's just what goes into these publicly traded companies and trying to just make more profit each year. Still though, when it's brought up the idea that Xbox distribution may not even be available in some areas, it does start to make you wonder about how exactly they're approaching next generation. Okay, so we've talked about the idea of them having a new console. They've already discussed that outright, but also the idea of them leaning into other companies making that console, or just using the Xbox brand for hardware, as we just saw with MetaQuest. And the more you see that happen, the less necessary it is, yes, for a large number of people to help get these systems out there, distribute them, sell them, like the marketing. There's a lot of stuff that goes into that if you are trying to launch a system that you expect to sell 50, 60, 70, 100 million consoles. If they don't really have those aspirations as much, and they're shifting more and more to the OS and the software side, well, they're then trying to sell that more so to many of the manufacturers and not so much to the consumers out there. Still, at this time, this is an early report and it hasn't necessarily happened yet. It's just people are being briefed on it. So when it does happen and we can kind of look and see exactly how all this pans out, we can at least reevaluate, come back to it, and see maybe what Microsoft's plans are as they go towards their next generation, which it does seem like, as we're hearing about stuff like this even, maybe it really is end of 2026 and they try to jump out ahead of Sony, as of course they're planning their PS6 potentially for the end of 2027. Next up, let's talk about actually a really cool emulator for the original Nintendo that has now left early access and is available on Steam. And it's unique in the sense that it gives you an entirely different perspective on classic titles that you remember from way back in the day. So we can see this is over on Steam. This is the page for 3D Sen. Now, there are two different versions of this, to my understanding. The one I was looking at was just the standard PC version, but there's also a VR version, which would make sense considering what they're doing here is transforming classic 2D NES games into 3D voxel experiences. So there is just more depth to what would typically be a very much 2D experience. Now, the plane itself, it's still 2D, but it just adds a lot to it in the sense of what you see and just the perceived depth to it. Now, they have a bunch of features that are listed here with more than 100 supported titles and growing. That's very important, by the way. I know it's like $9 something on sale, but you definitely want to make sure that a game you may want to play here does work with it, like it's actually compatible. And they have right now something up on their community page on Steam that at least has a list of what looks to be 101 titles. I did check to see the Mega Man games, and they have at least 1, 2, and 3 on there. Metroid is also there, Pac-Man, I think they had Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong 3, and then Junior, Dr. Mario, Duck Hunt, DuckTales 1 and 2. So, I mean, they have a bunch of the more popular games is what I'll say on there, but you know, there might be some obscure ones that you'd want to play that aren't necessarily available yet. It seems like they're trying to add to that consistently as they go along. They do say they have quick save and load, of course, rollback and fast forward, custom camera controls so you can zoom, rotate, and swing around to see everything there, and animated skyboxes. So, I don't know, just kind of a cool thing that I saw pop up, especially if you're someone who still likes to play a lot of those original Nintendo games, maybe through emulators. Seems like a really fun way to go back and see these from a different angle. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Nvidia and a new budget card that they have announced, and that's the RTX 5050. So we'll wait for the RGT branded card for that one, I guess. But we can see this was posted up. This is over on Tom's Hardware, saying the RTX 5050 features 2,560 Blackwell CUDA cores, 8 gigabytes of GDDR6 memory running at 128-bit wide interface, and a 130-watt TGP, which will necessitate a supplementary 6-pin or 8-pin connector. The boost clocks are rated up to 2,570 megahertz. But of course, you expect partner models, they'll come in and they'll do factory overclocks and probably push to higher clock speeds. The GPU's 5th gen Tensor cores are rated for up to 421 TOPS of AI performance and 40 T-flops from the GPU's ray tracing cores. So it looks like with laptops, they'll be fitting these in as well. And I believe they'll be tapping GDDR7 memory for the 8 gigabytes. And that's the biggest thing here is they come in at $249 for the desktop side. I think this card makes a lot more sense in those budget gaming laptops, usually laptops that are under $900, we'll say, and it would be paired with probably a mid-tier CPU to go alongside of it. Those make sense because you're targeting, most likely there, 1080p. Maybe it's a higher refresh rate, 1080p panel in the laptop, but you're not looking for 1440p or 4K, and you're also not really upgrading that laptop much. You're buying it knowing what you're getting there. Whereas if you have a desktop and you go up 50 or 60 bucks to the next tier, maybe you can play around with something like 1440p in different games. So I think $249 is close to the mark that I'd be looking for, which is $199. I think if this was a $199 card, it would be way more appealing, just for the marketing aspect, but also just the fact that it would fit into those really, really nice budget desktop builds that people post around. Because it's not like, go find this card used somewhere in the secondhand market on eBay or go on Craigslist. No, it's a $200 card, and you can go pick it up at Micro Center or something right now and throw it all together. Also, the 8 gigabytes of video memory, it does make you wonder, as we're seeing more and more games tap much more than that at this time, where some are calling for, hey, the thing's got to have 12 to 16 or you're going to have a problem. Again, it's a 1080p card, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're not going to run into games that will still struggle with that amount of VRAM that's available. We're waiting for actual benchmarks, as Nvidia did the thing where they share what's really just a marketing slide, because they show you the old card, which would be they had the 4050 or the 3050 and stuff next to it, right? And they go, hey, here it is, and then here's the 5050 with DLSS4 and frame gen, and everything in the bar is way larger, but we know if you turn that stuff off, it's probably like a 15 to 20% increase. So again, I'd be waiting for like independent benchmarks on this, but it's not coming out till the beginning of July 1st, so you can still keep an eye out for that there and see how the launch goes. Otherwise, let's get a look at some of those reviews without all the bells and whistles and extra features turned on and see how it actually stacks up to last generation. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, are you picking up Drag X Drive on Switch 2 when it releases in August? 92% say no. 8% say yes. So I still look at that game as it's that title where you play it for an hour or two with your friends, and that's kind of it. That's the $20 experience. Some people will get very, very into it. The idea of jumping off of half pipes, doing tricks, and then like slamming the basketballs. Okay, that could be kind of cool if you can pull it off. I think it's just going to be that situation of, do I really feel like using them as 2 different mouse controls in each hand to make this happen? Couldn't I just use sticks on the controller instead? It's kind of the setup process and how much you actually feel like, dealing with that. In a way, kind of like ARMS, but I feel like ARMS definitely had better characters because there actually were characters, and just more to the game as opposed to this, which again, $20 kind of tech demo game that can show off the mouse controls. So I don't necessarily think it's going to do very well, but also it's not necessarily priced as, hey, this is a $60 or $70 game that's going to be a big tentpole title. Nah, it's just kind of there, digital only. Check it out if you want. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Switchmania, who says, with Digital Foundry, they had to slow down the video to really show off the ghosting. I think in everyday use, it is barely noticeable unless you were specifically looking for it. Then again, I understand that there are people that once an issue like this is pointed out, they can't unsee it. That is true, as so I feel like I kind of ruined the screen, maybe a little bit for MVG, because I was talking to him about it at one point in DMs and stuff on X, and we were going back and forth, and I said, okay, fire up Super Mario World and run really fast and look at the background and see what you think. And he did it. He's like, whoa. So he got his iPhone out, the 120 frames stuff, and then started slowing it down. I was like, yeah, so sorry about that, but I don't necessarily notice it in Mario Kart World, and that's one that some people bring up, and they're like, I see it when I do quick turns and stuff. I'm just so focused on not flying off the road. Maybe expert Mario Kart players can see it because they can kind of do some of this stuff without having to focus super heavy on just like basic like drifts and stuff around corners and rail grinding. But it depends. I think it's Zelda. It's a bit easier if you start swinging the camera around really fast. The point is, though, it's not necessarily going to be the same for each person. Some are more sensitive than others. And I don't think it's a problem if someone looks at it and goes, I just don't see it. So I don't know what to tell you. I think some people really want other people to also be able to see it because now they can't unsee it, and they make sure they know that on social media. Just keep in mind, it is a good thing to bring up to Nintendo as constructive criticism around the system, because maybe there is potential for them to at least be able to alleviate some of that ghosting through firmware updates in the future, or at the very least, maybe look into changing panels or something for the future of the system, whether it's through a later revision, maybe with an OLED, or just a better LCD in general. Not a big deal to bring it up to the big corporation to understand, hey, yeah, maybe this screen needs a bit of work here. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed yesterday's Newswave, I'll leave it up here in a card. Or maybe you wanted to hear about what you should be looking for, maybe a bit of a warning if you decide to venture into the second-hand market for the Switch 2. I'll leave that in a video right below it. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.